Oh, mic check, mic check. Great. So here, welcome back to the final part of our chapter 13 and 14 video, in which this time we are going to look at the final concept of this chapter of equity. All right, so let's get started. Here you will see when we talk about equity, right? Now, efficiency and equity, they are two very different concepts. All right, now in that, efficiency is just about maximization, 賺得最多, while equity and equality is basically talking about fairness. It is not concerned with whether you have maximized your output, whether you have maximized your TSS, those kind of things, right? But it is concerned with how even the distribution of something is. All right, now let me give you one very stupid example. Okay, now one stupid example will be, let's say, okay, now there are two people. We have Liu Chen, and then we also have Li Ka-shing. Now, so situation number one, let's say Liu Chen has $0, Li Ka-shing has as 10,000. Okay, so the total, we have 10,000 in the society versus the second situation. Let's say I have 100. Li Ka-shing also have 100. So the total, you will see that this one, since we have maximized, right? So this is going to be the efficient case. 係嘛? Maximize 咗嘛? Versus the second case. Here you see everyone is equal. We call this equity case or equality case. 好嘛? Now, unfortunately, in the real world, most of the time they would be at odds with each other. When you are fair, you give up some TSS, and when you are not, when you try to maximize TSS, you give up fairness. Okay, 好嘛? So one thing we are going to talk about is income distribution. Now, to save your time, right? These two simply, okay, look at the textbook. I'm not going to waste your time in this video. Okay, now the important thing is to look at Lorenz curve and the Gini coefficient. Okay, here Lorenz curve, it pits against two things. Okay, it pits against, first, the cumulative percentage of the income, okay, against the cumulative percentage of the households. Okay, it will look something like this. 我偷睇下後面啦。It will look something like this. Therefore, you see, right? A curve. That's why we call it a Lorenz curve. Okay? 好啦，我哋詳細睇下啦。Now remember, the x-axis here. No, the y-axis. Okay? Y-axis, as we already know, y-axis would be about the percentage of income in the society, right? Here would be the percentage of household. Okay, 好嘛? Now, usually the curve won't be like this and like this. In fact, most of the time, you will see the representation would be a square. Okay, 通常會封口㗎 because you know, right? It ends at 100%. Okay, 好嘛? Now, think about the case. There is a reference line. Now, let's imagine what is the most even distribution. Okay, the most even income distribution should look like this. 10% of people holding 10% of the income, 20% holding 20%, should be something like that, right? That will be absolutely even. 係咪10%揸10%，20%揸20%, right? In this curve, it would look like this. Now, in fact, you see, we have we call it the 45-degree line. This, the green one, is the absolute even distribution. Okay, absolutely even. 好嘛? Now, versus another extreme case. Another extreme case would be, let's say, right? 10% of people holding 0, 20% holding 0. Only the last person holding 100%. 一個人揸晒所有錢。This will be complete here. Completely uneven. 絕對不平均啦。Okay? Remember, all the income, only the last one holding all. The previous one, they all hold nothing. It will become this very, how should I put it? Very funny looking curve, right? So these are the two extreme cases. In reality, most Lorenz curve would lie in between these two, something like that. All right? 好嘛? Now, let's call this the curve A. 好啦, now, in many questions, they ask you to compare Lorenz curve. So how do we compare? In fact, you just look at the extreme case, remember, right? This is absolutely even. This is completely uneven. So let's say I have a curve B at here. All right, so compare A and B. We would know that actually B, since it is closer to the absolute uneven or further away from the absolute even, B is less even than A. Okay, 好嘛? So this is the brief idea about Lorenz curve. Okay, 好嘛? 原來咁睇啦. Now, another related concept would be what we call Gini coefficient. Remember, Gini coefficient lies between 0 and 1. Here you see, right? 0, absolute inequality. 1, complete inequality. So what is that? In fact, Gini coefficient is derived from the Lorenz curve. Only that number is easier to read than a graph, right? It's the area between 45-degree line and the Lorenz curve versus the total area of the 45-degree. So what does that mean? It means that here, remember, right? We have our 45-degree. So let's call this here total area B. This blue, no, this green area, okay, this triangle would be the total area. The area between 45-degree, this guy, and the Lorenz curve, 呢個豆袋啦 ，OK， 好嘛 ？This red area, okay, this is what we call A. 好嘛 ？All right， 得唔得 ？So you will see when it is closer to the absolute equality line, then it would be the area, this Gini coefficient would be lower, such that 0 is an absolute income equality, which would be like this. Only a line divided by this triangle. 係嘛? Remember, line has 0 area. 係嘛? That would be 0. Versus complete income inequality, this area, right? So it becomes this guy divided by this guy, which would be 1. Okay? 好嘛? 原來咁解啫. Therefore, you will see that Gini coefficient and Lorenz curve, they are the exact same ideas. 原來係完全一樣㗎. Okay? 好嘛? All right, with that in mind, let's try to do some exercise here. 我哋睇啲 exercise 啦. Here, you are given country A and country B for 82%. 唔該你一定要啱啊，好嘛? Now, according to above two diagram, we see that country A, this curve is further away from the 45-degree line or closer to absolute complete inequality, right? 係嘛? Therefore, we know that country A has a less even income distribution. Less income, less even. What does that mean? It means it has a higher Gini coefficient. Now, what about A and B? Do you know, by just looking at the curve, do you know anything about the GDP, GNI, those kind of thing? No. Lower income has a higher income. Lower income group has a higher income. No, you don't know anything about the income. You only know something about income distribution. 你就係知佢分佈啫，你唔知道佢多定少嘅，好冇？好啦，嗱 next one. Suppose a post-tax Gini coefficient is larger. 咩叫 larger 啊？ It means less even than its pre-tax. Meaning, because of the tax, it becomes less even. 係嘛？咁即係咩意思啊？ What kind of tax would lead to a less even income distribution? Regressive tax. 係嘛？我哋知道一定係 regressive tax 嚟㗎啦，好嘛？ The government has increased the amount transferred to the poor 唔會啦，係咪啊？倒轉啦 ，it should be just the opposite. The tax system is likely to be regressive. Yes, exactly the answer we want. Okay， 好啦 ，the problem of income inequality is worse than that in previous years. How do I know？ 我鬼知上年係點啊？好嘛 ？Should reform 你見到 should 字唔使諗啊，一定錯啦。OK，there is nothing as should， 冇得 should 嘅。嗱。Here, 91%係咪？呢啲全部好淺嘅。You see the Gini coefficient of Hong Kong going up and going up. It means that we are having a less and less even income distribution. 越嚟越唔平均啦，貧富懸殊越嚟越嚴重啦，好嘛？ So based on the above diagram, we can conclude that the income level 唔知係嘛？ We do not know. This guy do not know. 好啦 ，income for higher increase 話。We do not know, right? Income gap has been widening. 係啦，啱啦。The welfare policy failed. How do I know? 我鬼知係咪 failed 㗎？我鬼知係咪佢 fail 啊 ？How do I know whether it's a welfare policy failed? How do I know? Right? 我唔知喎，係嘛？ Alright, so D is a must. 係咪 has been widening? 好啦 ，Now 2020 here. Of country B, of country A, 係嘛？呢個 A 呢個 B 啦。So you see that, right? Again, you know country B is less even than country A, 係嘛？ Compared with country B, the Gini coefficient should be smaller, right? 係咪？ Should be smaller, 係嘛？ Has a more even income distribution. Yes, the top 20% have less total. How do I know, right? Living standard, how do I know? OK， 嗱，你見啊，econ 考咁多咋 ？OK，Gini coefficient and Lorenz curve really just about all these, nothing too difficult. All right, so don't spend too much time here. 好啦 I think it's time we move on to some other topics. OK， now here the sources of income of inequality, right? Now let me highlight several important ones for you. Okay, I think the important ones would be this one, and this one. 係咪？呢兩個啦 and of course this one as well. All right, now here, obviously in this notes, I've already written plenty of things here. 好嘛？ Now just that you need to remember, these two may be a little bit confusing. When we talk about labor qualities, all right, we are talking about most of the time the inborn quality. For example, how I look. 我生得樣衰冇辦法㗎，係嘛？隔離嗰生得靚女，嗰生樣衰冇辦法㗎。I can't do anything, right? Appearance is a gift of nature. Now, versus the second, when we talk about the skill, we are not just talking about the skill level, but we are talking about the gap of skill level. OK， 嗱，陣間睇一條題目，你就明咩叫 gap of skill level 啦。Usually, larger the gap, larger the wage difference. OK， 好唔好？下面唔講啦，呢個唔講啦。Now one more to talk about unequal factor endowment， 係咪啊？望下你同望下李嘉誠咪知咯。You and 李澤楷 I'm sure. No, you and 劉明偉. Okay, you know who's 劉明偉? The one that the CEO of Ocean Park right now. 係咪? He must be very stupid. 係咪望下佢知啦 He once said 係咪啊 He say 14K 14000. Okay, if you don't go to Japan, you can buy a house in 15 years. 佢試下，佢試下15年買到14,000人工。So I'm sure his IQ is much lower than yours. Somehow he won. 點解佢勁過你啊？佢勁過老豆咯。你同佢爭啲咩啊？ The difference between you and him, father. Factor endowment. 佢出世就啊 when he was born, he has a family business, he has land. You have nothing, including me, of course, right? 係嘛 So you see, right? Factor endowment. 喂，自己睇啦，呢班好唔好啊？唔嘥你時間啊。All right, let's look at some questions. Here, this question. Which are the possible causes of income inequality among individuals? 唔使問，一定全部都係 one, two, three. 咩嘢都關事㗎，係嘛 ？Must be related, right? Possible sources of income inequality, everything different, 係嘛？只要有唔同嘅 even your appearance different, your income will be different, right? 1, 2, 3唔使講啦。So next one, here, of啦 data of average annual income earned by women, okay, 係嘛 men and women, okay. See here you see, right, 係嘛 now some table different age different gender. So which of the following may explain the phenomenon shown by the above data, right? Women tend to leave the job market earlier than men to take care of their family, leading to fewer women taking up the senior position, right? 我點睇點睇呢個啊 Look at this line. This 50 to 59 line 記唔記得發生咩事Men, they got much higher income, average income than women. 咁咪解釋到咯 Because women, they leave the job market, so they don't take up the senior position. The senior positions may have higher income. 係嘛？咪解釋到咯 Yes, number one, 50 to 59 line. 係嘛？好啦。Sex discrimination in the labor market exists in the older generation. Yes. Again, 50 to 59. This line. Accumulation of human capital contributes to the difference in income between age group. 呢個又點睇啊 You just look at versus this guy. Look at both gender. 望下兩個 gender 啦，好嘛？Women, younger ones, lower income. The older one, higher income. Younger one, lower income. Older one, higher income. Why? Because as you age, you get more human capital, your knowledge, your experience, okay? Contribute the difference between age groups. 係喎，係嘛？老嘅賺多啲喎。So also correct. 1, 2, and 3. All right. Does it look like LS? Yes, exactly. Now this question is important. Important in the sense that the answer is easy. But next time, what about it become a short question? 下次變 short question 咪得咯，係嘛？ Therefore, do me one favor, recite all these answer. 第時一見到咁嘅情況，背翻出嚟咯。係嘛 The EAA has given you 3 possible answers, actually 2 possible answers for this group and 1 possible answer across the age, right? Recite them. 佢送俾你嘅3個答案，唔該你背咗佢，好唔好？All right, now comes the important question. Now this one is an important question, especially this part. Especially this part. Okay? 好啦。You are given the Gini coefficient of 2 different industry, right? You will see that according to table 1, which occupation has a smaller income inequality among its worker? I think you already know. The smaller Gini coefficient means that it has a less, more even, right? Smaller income inequality, more even income distribution. 係咪啊? It should be construction. Okay? 好嗎? Now, there are many possible answers to this question. But now, if you are interested, go look up the answer by yourself. But I want to talk about one of them in particular. All right? Now, one of them is that because in the construction industry, the skill gap between the highest and the lowest skill is actually smaller. Now, what do I mean, right? For example, if you look at the skill difference, finance in a bank, right? Let's say between 銀行嗰櫃位啦 the teller 係咪嗰個櫃位個姐姐啦 versus iBanker， 你睇 iBanker 同埋 teller the skill difference is massive. But then you also look at construction. Maybe you have some steel fixers. Let's say versus the welder 係咪焊鐵嗰個啦？焊鐵嗰個 right? You see the skill difference. Yes, there are some difference in the skill, but the gap is not as big. Now, this is what I meant by the skill gap, right? 係咪？我頭先講個 skill gap 就係呢樣嘢啦。Okay, so the skill gap between the highest and the lowest is actually way smaller for construction. Okay, 好嗎？ Another reason you may talk about maybe something to do with the gender difference. Think about it. When was the last time you see female in construction sites, right? I'm not discriminating. I'm only saying construction most likely has a more homogeneous gender distribution. Male, most of them will be male. Versus finance, insurance, those kind of thing. You have both male and female. 係嘛？男同女都有啦。咁啊有so there will be a difference, right? 係嘛？嗱 if you are interested, go look up the answer by yourself. I'm not going to waste your time here. I'm very LS like. 好啦，嗱 here. Then you are further given table 2 and table 3, right? You're given table 2 and table 3. We need to use table 1 and table 2 to explain how table 3 would arrive, okay? Now, so let's see. What are they? First, table 1. From table 1, our conclusion is that the financing something industry has a less even income distribution, right? 係嘛? Now, this is our message. Now, if you look at table 2. Now, table 2. From the table 2, you will see that somehow in 2011, finance has a higher 嗱，小心啲啊 share of employment 係咪啊 higher share of employment. Therefore, you will see that 係咪啊 therefore, the average would become less evenly distributed. 係嘛？既然係咪啊？唔 even 嗰個多咗 share 啊嘛。The uneven one has a higher share. It necessarily would mean that the average would be so-called pull up. 係咪啊？會差咗咯。係嘛？ You see it increased, right? 好嘛？ Again, if you're interested in the answer, Go look up by yourself. I'm not going to waste your time. I just want to explain the concept 係嘛 Then move on 好啦呢個啦有興趣自己睇下啦 Now finally in this chapter we're going to look at some solutions to inequality. Okay. Now, in fact, 嚟嚟去都嗰幾個啫 Remember, in our ADAS chapter, one of the criteria we look at whether a policy is effective or not. One of them is whether it can deal with income inequality. Okay, 好嘛 Now, several things you can do. For example, through tax and subsidy. Okay, through tax and subsidy. Okay. First of all, before I talk, in fact, equality can be further broken down into two different areas. First, income equality. 錢一唔一樣先 Second, opportunity. 我哋叫做 opportunity equalization. We need to make sure the poor people would have more opportunity to move socially upward. For example, more education. How do we equalize opportunity? For example, education. Most of the poor people, maybe they cannot attend, let's say, tertiary education. Then they have no chance to get a better job. So you provide more training, more education so that they can get into a better job. That kind of thing, right? Enhancing market condition, 令個市場a more friendly market situation, right? And social enterprise, especially for those maybe they went to prison, 之前嗰啲囚犯啊，Usually after they go out of jail, right? Not many people want to hire them, so they lose the opportunity. We have some social enterprise so that they can work again and earn the opportunity. All right, 好嘛？好啦，咁有咩會令到 income equality 咧 One of the more important is actually tax and transfer payment. Okay, 好啦，點寫咧 How do we write it? First, increasing progressive tax. Remember, by increasing progressive tax, salary tax, those kind of things, right? The percentage decrease in income for the rich people would be larger than the percentage decrease in the income for poor people. Therefore, the wealth gap would be narrower. 係咪啊？而家冇錢嘅跌少少，有錢嘅跌好多嘛？係咪？ So the gap would be narrower. What about the other way around? Decreasing regressive tax. So the percentage increase in income for the rich people will be smaller than the percentage increase in income for the poor people. 係咪啊？即係一個嗱，本身講啊，一個升少少，一個升好多，係咪啊？ So it gets closer. 好啦，嗱 also transfer payment, subsidy, those kind of things. Remember, let's say CSSA, 綜援啦 those are only mainly aimed at the poor, not for the rich, right? 好嘛 Now, what about, let's say, 6,000, 好嘛派6000蚊啊 The same here. The percentage increase in income for the rich people would be smaller than the percentage increase in income for the poor people. That kind of thing. All right? 好嘛 What about minimum wage law? Minimum wage law, remember, only the poorer group can benefit. That's why they earn more money, while the rich people unchanged, right? 好嘛 Now, this one is funny. I think this one is a little bit funny. Let's slow down a little bit. 原來咧，物價水平啊 price level can also affect the income distribution. Okay, let's say we have a decrease in general price level. How do we call it? We call it a subsidy in kind. 記住啦 whenever price level decrease, our purchasing power would go up. Therefore, when the price level decrease, the percentage increase in purchasing power for rich people is actually less than the increase in purchasing power for the poor people. Okay? 好唔好啊？嗱，呢個啦 I think you should know what it is, right? 係嘛？嗱 just that 即係都係漢堡包啫。Let's say Big Mac, right? Now the thing's $5 cheaper. For Li Ka-shing, $5 is nothing. But for me, $5 is a lot. For you, even more. 係咪？點解？ Because our income 係咪？ Our wealth is very different 係咪啊？你5蚊成副身家得5蚊嘅，佢平咗5蚊，哇100% 嚟嘅咯喎，係咪啊 ？Alright, something like that。好嘛？嗱 ，again, these are written all for you. Just study them by yourself. Let's finish our video by looking at the final examples that we have. Okay, 好嘛 For example, this guy, 2014, question 20. Now, which of the following policies can reduce Gini coefficient based on a post-tax, post-social transfer? Based on this post, meaning it can be a tax related to tax, or it can be related to transfer payment. 係咪 post 啊嘛 So next time, if they say the versus, let's say if they say pre-tax, okay, then you cannot use tax, 係嘛 something like that, okay, 係嘛 but this time they say post, so many things could be, right? Reduce Gini coefficient, make it reduce, meaning more even income distribution. Okay, 好啦，睇啦 first, to raise the standard rate salary tax. Remember, standard rate, only the rich people pay. So now, the rich people paying more tax, 係嘛？有錢人俾多啲稅 Yes, it will narrow the income gap. Now, what about this? Reduce the marginal tax rate on salary tax. Remember, salary tax is a progressive tax. When you reduce the marginal tax rate, what is marginal tax rate? Here, Hong Kong, 2%, 7%, 12%, etc. 係嘛？你人工越高，係嘛？ The percentage would get higher. Marginal meaning the difference. So it becomes 2%, 4%, 6%, etc. 係嘛？ It become less progressive. 係咪？佢會冇咁 progressive So the income equality will actually be worsened. 係咪？其實會差咗喎。好嘛 ？Reduce the amount CSSA 唔使解啦，係咪啊？ To grant an equal sum of money to MPF account to every employee. 唔係啊，你話喎 Mr. Chen, you just say right？ 你話阿 Sir 你啱啱先講啦，係咪啊？ The percentage increase for poor people with less MPF should be bigger than the percentage increase for rich people. 係咪 equal sum 啊嘛 Then why is this not correct? 係喎，窮人真係會多咗錢噶嘛？唔係，窮人真係個 percentage increase 係多啲噶喎。Why is it not correct? Remember, to every employee. What about the unemployed? Remember, most of the time, the unemployed will be the poor people. Now, yes, you help the employed to close their gap. What about the unemployed? You actually pulling it further. 而家係冇錢嘅又失業嘅仲慘咗啊！ You pull apart the distance between the unemployed and the employed, right? So the effect is actually unknown in this case. On one hand, it helps the employed to close the gap. But on the other hand, the unemployed and the employed, the gap will be bigger. 得唔得啊？所以唔知咯，唔知大咗定細咗咯，好嘛？好啦，嗱 next one， Li Ka-shing Foundation to 5,000 to living in remote district with lower average household. Which of the following statement is true? It reduces income inequality as large portion of the receiver are from lower income group 咪啱咯，係嘛？解釋完咯。好啦 ，B、C、D 講啲咩 ？Increase income inequality as it is unfair，係嘛 ？Non，OK， non 點會 unfair 啊 ？Right now the non-remote area, right? But it also sets for lower average household, right? So how do I know, right? 睇嚟唔會 increase 啊 ，it's unlikely, right? Unlikely. Now, As the money is given to all candidates living, income distribution remains unchanged. 唔好玩啊 only for the lower income, right? 係嘛? It helps equalizing opportunities. Will study harder to improve their result. Yes, I think this one is correct. Equalizing opportunity. But the thing is, will they study harder? How do I know? 你諗下 Now let's say I give you 5,000， 你會唔會勤力咗啊？ I doubt it。我肯定你唔會勤力咗啦，你勤力唔使睇條片啦，係咪啊 ？If you're watching this video, most likely you have not been paying attention in class， 係咪啊？俾多5000蚊你，你會勤力咗 ？No, it won't happen。講笑啫。I think some of you are very hardworking. You pay attention and you still watching this as a revision. Now, anyway， 係咪？你見到啦 ，the explanation is not correct. So, how can we explain equalizing opportunity, right? 係咪啊 ？It will allow the marginal cases 係咪？即係窮到爛讀唔到書嗰啲人啊 ，marginal cases to embark in education 係咪 ？For example, some are so poor that they can't even pay the DSE fee。喂，有人窮到 DSE 啲錢都交唔到咧？咁攞到錢咪可以交到咯，係嘛 ？The marginal cases. Therefore, it is helping the marginal cases to survive the environment, to have higher education, so that later on they get better job, right? 係嘛 ？Not study hard， 肯定唔會嘅。OK， 好嘛？好 ，next one。OK, next one, this one. Here, the work incentive travel 係咪即係嗰啲車船津貼啊 ？For lower income, reduce their cost of traveling. Okay, meeting a certain criteria. Okay, are eligible. 好啦 which of the following is likely occur? Okay, labor supply would increase. Yes, I think so. Right 係咪啊？而家有津貼啦 ，for you to work, I subsidize you to go to work. Of course, labor supply would increase. What about productivity? Actually, I don't know. 係嘛？收多咗錢會唔會代表你做得快啲㗎 ？I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. Okay, income inequality would be reduced. Yes, right, would be reduced because it is aimed at lower income 係咪啊 ？asset limit 㗎嘛，係嘛 ？Geographical mobility would increase. Yes， 資助你啊嘛。So 134， 好嘛？得唔得？唔難啊，係嘛 ？73%係咪？呢啲唔難嘅題目嚟㗎。嗱 ，next one， 係咪 ？2019 question 19 75%, right? Now remember this is the new. Now this one, the inner one is new. This one is old. Okay. Now which of the following policy would the above change in the Lorenz curve? 好啦，而家新嘅啫咩意思啊？而家係 more even income distribution 啊嘛，係咪 ？So lowering profit tax rates. 好啦，嗱 here profit tax. This is a little bit tricky, I think. Okay, because remember profit tax now, at least now, it is a little bit of progressive tax. 而家佢 progressive 㗎 Therefore, if you lower the tax rate, actually you make it less progressive, right? So I don't think A is correct. Now what about B? Reducing salary allowance. No, if you reduce the salary allowance, right, it actually become less progressive. 係咪 Less progressive again. 係咪冇咁 progressive 喎？呢兩個都 A and B. Increase the progressivity. Yes, exactly, right? 呢個啦 less progressive. Raising the air passenger departure tax. Remember, this tax is a regressive tax in nature. Okay, regressive tax in nature. Now, therefore, if you increase it, actually, it should be less even income distribution. Okay, 好嘛？好啦，嗱 ，next one. Announce the scheme 6,000，係咪？嗰時6000蚊啊。Do you think should introduce to improve equity in Hong Kong society, right? 係咪？佢話 equity 啦。So you can answer in several ways, okay? 嘛 several ways. For example, 係咪？ You can say something about income equality. 你話喂佢 income distribution 喎，係嘛？ you can say yes, it'll be more even 係嘛 because this lump sum cash 係嘛點解釋啊？記住啦 percentage increase in income for the poor people will be larger than the percentage for the rich. Therefore, the gap will be closed. Okay? 好，仲有冇其他啊？嗱 this is the easier one. Any other way to explain income equality? 有嘛 Yes, actually, you can answer in no as well. 你可以倒轉嚟講都得嘅喎。No 係嘛 You can argue 嗱 LS 寫嚟嘅真係好 LS 寫嘅。You can argue it should be given to the poor only because now the 6,000 also for the rich people 係咪？你話有錢人要嚟做咩啊？唔需要嘅噃，係嘛 ？All right，好嘛。Now besides income equality, when we talk about equity, you can also talk about some other points. For example, we talk about equalizing opportunity. Now you can say yes, because the poor people with the money may get some more education. 係咪用啲錢去讀下書咯？ So later on, they have better skill. They obtain better skill and find better job. Okay, now remember, these are some examples of answers only. There are infinitely many answers because it asks whether it should. This is a normative question. So there are many points available for this question. All right. Now, if you're interested, go look up the marking scheme by yourself. 嗱，我唔嘥時間好嘛 ？LS 呢家你都好熟噶啦，好嘛 ？Now, the last two questions. Now here, they say HA, okay, the hospital authority. Now with reference to source B, how can enhance equity, right? You can see, right? It provides the primary care, elderly, lower income, and chronic disease, okay? Now these kind of people, okay, these kind of people, usually they are the disadvantaged. So if you provide more service to them, what happened? You give them better chances, okay, to move upward socially, 係嘛？令佢係向社會上流啦，唔係佢病咗做唔到嘢啊嘛，係嘛 ？OK， 好嘛？我話 if you want another answer, you can say that so that they can continue to work, 係嘛 and earn income. 係嘛？好多方法都答得㗎。Again, you can look at the marking scheme by yourself. Not going to waste your time here. 係咪？呢課真係冇乜嘢好教，呢課真係。嗱，many people argue that should raise the fee. We need to evaluate in terms of equity and efficiency. 係咪？兩個都要啦，好嘛？嗱，first of all, for equity, raise the fee. What would happen? 係嘛？嗱，when you raise the fee. So two things. First, if you raise the fee, the percentage decrease in income for the poor will be larger than the percentage decrease for the rich people. Therefore, it will be less even. Okay. So this guy, it will not be good for equity. Another is that when you raise the fee, the poor may not be able to get the service, right? Also not good for equity. Okay, now what about efficiency, right? Remember, the fee increases, so waiting time would decrease. 記住啦 waiting time, what is that, right? It means the shortage would decrease. Therefore, that weight loss would decrease because the MB-MC gap would be lower. 係嘛？而家肯定係 shortage 啊嘛。Now we are shortage, right? MB-MC gap would be lowered because of shortage. Okay? 好嘛？ All right, so this is the way we do it. Now finally, let's look at this. Li Ka-shing Foundation 係啦，又係呢條啫嘛，係咪？其實嗱 statement A。justify statement B, improve equity. 我自己睇啦，唔嘥時間，係咪？copy from your textbook, okay? 好嘛 So you see, right? The final part of this chapter, equity, basically just blowing water and blowing water. So in case you want, right, the most important page I think you need to study would be this one. All right. Do look at how to write, and do remember there are both income inequality and equalizing opportunity in the equity sense. All right, Homa. And with that said, we are actually conclude. We are finished with our chapter 13 and 14, right? So the next and the final teaching video I'm going to have for you in your whole economic study from Form 4 to Form 6 will be chapter 24. So see you again next time. Bye bye.